Alright. Everybody loves to play online games that have to deal with earning money. So after a while, those games can become boring. For everyone that enjoys math and geometry and money, I have the game for you. It's pool. It has come from a common everyday game to both an exciting, competitive, fun-filled experience it is today. So I'm going to talk to you about the history of the game, the equipment needed, the different types of pool, and the object of them. So first up, I have the history. Pool was invented in the 15th century. They played croquet a lot, and then they decided, let's make it an indoor sport, but they couldn't play croquet inside, so they invented the pool table, which was made of wood, and then they put a green felting on it, and then, sorry, this picture's kind of blurry, but, so in the 1800s, they developed a cue, and they made it basically of whatever that they could find, just any types of wood or whatever, and you can see that it's not really too much of a design, it's pretty plain, which I'll talk about later on, but, and then the balls were also made of wood, and then they just painted them, solids and stripes, and then the numbers and stuff. And then, so that's just a little bit on the history, and so now I'm going to talk to you about how it's modernized today. As you can see the designs and everything on the cues, this is made of maple, and cues are either made of maple or pine, but depending on what the weather is and where you keep your cues, they can warp. So sometimes they make them out of graphite, which is that one won't warp or anything. It'll always stay straight and true. And then another thing are the tips that are used. Back in the 15th century when they developed pool, they didn't have tips, they just used the end of their stick. And so now this is a hard tip, which is mostly used on what we call break stick. And they make it a hard tip because then all the force that you put into it's what goes into the balls, so that way they splatter everywhere. And then for more control and spin, you have a softer tip, so that way there's more finesse in that tip. And then the chalk, they didn't have chalk back then, so the chalk helps with friction and stuff, so that way when the cue makes contact with the ball, it doesn't squirt off to one side or something like that. It always stays true, and it does what you want it to do as long as you hit it correctly. So next up are the tables. So as you can see, these tables are a little fancier than they used to be, but this is a coin-operated one, so if you go into a bar and whatnot, this is usually what's there. The coin dispenser's here, and then these pockets, when you make a ball, it drops it down into the window so that way you can see what ball you've made. And then, so the cue ball size and then the regular ball sizes are usually a little different. Depends on where you're at. The cue ball's either a little smaller or a little bigger, what game you're playing, whatever. So then that way, the cue ball doesn't drop in there, you can't get it. It comes down and back out to here so you can get it out to use it. And then down here is more of the traditional pool table that you have in your home. It has the pockets that catch the ball, so then you just have to walk around and take them out. And you can get pretty fancy with pool tables. In size, length, they get up to 12 foot, and they get down to a bar table, which is 7 or 8 foot. Now, the balls that we have today, they're made of ivory, which is in elephant tusks, and they're still common, but for the sake of extinction for elephants, they have to cut down on making too many ivory balls so that way elephants don't go extinct. But it's the same thing as the balls that they first had. The numbers and the stripes and the solids. So that's a little bit on the equipment and how it's modernized. So now that you know the history and the equipment, I'm going to talk to you about the types of games and how you play them. So this is probably the most common one that you guys know about. It's 8-ball, and there's 15 balls, 7 solids, 7 stripes, and then the 8-ball, which goes in the middle. So how you play the 8-ball is one person will break, and then if that person doesn't make one, the next person goes. And from there on, let's say that person makes a solid, then they have to make all the solids until they get all the solids made and they make the 8-ball. and then if you miss, it just keeps going back and forth, and you make your own designated balls. And then this one, 9 ball. This is 9 balls, so there's 9 balls, 1 through 9. 1 through 8 are the solids, and the 9 is striped. So the object of this game is you have to hit the balls in a consecutive order. So the one person will break, and you have to hit whatever ball is in order first. So off the break, you have to hit the 1 ball in the break, and then you go from there. If you make a ball, then you just go in the order, and then, unlike 8 ball, if you scratch, you have to put it in the kitchen, which is behind the second diamond, if you guys know what I'm talking about. But in 9 ball, if you don't hit the right ball, or you scratch, then your opponent can put the ball anywhere on the table if they want to. The last one I'm going to talk about is trick shots. The most common is team trick shots, like Team USA and then another team or whatever. It's kind of like pig for basketball. One team will make up a trick, and then if they do it successfully on their first try, then they get 2 points. And if they don't get it on their first try, then they do get a second try, and they get 1 point if that's successful. And then the other team has to do that same trick, and then after that they go back and forth until you get to a certain number of, let's say, 10 points or 15, however many they decide to go to. So that's kind of the overview of the game, the history, the equipment, and how you play it. So the last thing I'm going to talk about are tournaments and stuff, and the stuff that I do with pool. This is just one of the brackets of a tournament. So how it works is, usually they're played in bars, and you go in there. An entry fee for this tournament, I believe, was $5. So everybody gives in $5, and that's how they distribute the money in the end of the winners. And so they put you in like a randomizer, and they figure out who your opponents are, and then you play your opponent to the best, either 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 5 games, depends on how many people are in the tournament. And so this is the winner's side, and this is the loser's side. And so you go until you get down to the final, whatever, the final 2, which would be these 2 right here. And then the winner gets, I think this one might have been like 30 or 40 bucks, and then second place gets so much, and third place gets so much. So it kind of depends on how many people there are, but this is a really small tournament compared to what they have like statewide and national-wide. This was only like a 12-person tournament, but in the bigger tournaments you get to over 1,000 people, and it can be quite a bit of money in that. So, now that I've talked to you about, where's my bibliography, but, oops, I went too far. It's okay. Okay. So I talked to you about the history, the equipment needed, the different types of games, and the object of them. And so you can see that it's come from a common everyday game to now how it's modernized and everything's more technological. Technology's helped us a lot, and so I think that this is a game that if you enjoy math and stuff like that, that you guys should give it a try. So.
All right.